spectators along the side.
On Sunday, September 9th, the 43rd Canadian National Marathon was held in St. John's. We spoke with 4 of the entrants to find out how they train for a marathon, what they feel about running, and what their expectations are for the event.
The appeal of competition is the thing that actually keeps me running, or certainly has done up until fairly recently. I think that one's goals with running change as one gets older. I was 30 when I began. I felt very competitive. I enjoyed racing. I enjoyed the competition of running against another man and trying to beat him. Mostly, I was really interested in what I could do myself. I think that was the important thing. It was most of the competition, certainly in marathon running, is with oneself, to find out something about oneself and see how far one can go. I don't think that aspect of it changes very much. I think that as you go on, you still are very, very interested in what your body can do and what your mind can do and what your mind can make your body do. But I think certain other aspects as one gets older change. Certain other aspects of competition are definitely different. One loses some of the competitiveness against other people. As one becomes more comfortable with oneself, it's no longer necessary to prove that you're better than somebody else. And the competition then becomes almost exclusively with oneself, or at least in my case it does. And although I don't at this moment run as fast as I did in 1969, that's really a matter of training and really not a matter of getting older. And each race I approach with a goal, with feelings about myself, and with a kind of an excitement about what am I going to discover this time about myself in respect to the amount of training I've done and oh, I don't know.
I've only taken up running seriously, if you want to call it that, over the last 3.5 months, and got involved with it with a couple of other chaps at the university, and we began running pretty regularly, running in the road races in and around town here, and thought we might be interested in running the marathon if we were able to run enough miles over the 3-month period. And as time went on, we found that we thought we were putting enough miles and getting ready for it so that we'd give it a try, and I guess I was working at it myself, thinking that I would give it an effort, although I'm still very apprehensive about running it and not knowing what it'll all entail and what it'll feel like, because I've never run it before. So I'm going to give it a try on Sunday. To answer, the more general question of why I run, I've always done a lot of physical activity and exercise, and just generally to keep fit. I've always felt better when I was fit, able to put more effort into my work. I seem to have better stamina. I've always played a lot of squash, and when I wasn't playing squash and when I was younger, I participated in most sports, as a lot of kids do and a lot of people do. So that I've always kept up my physical activity, and running seems to be something that is, you're not dependent on other people, and you can get out and enjoy the feeling of exerting yourself, of putting in, extending your body, if you like, to whatever limits it'll handle, and doing that in peace. And that's one of the things that I seem to find when I'm out running, that I can relax, I can think about generally whatever's on my mind, or whatever I see is of a concern to me. It seems to work itself out in running, and I can come back home or go back to work or wherever, and feel quite relaxed and better able to put in the rest of the day. So that's generally, a few things about running for me. It's just an extension of my interest always in physical activity, and I find it something that's I'm motivated now to give this marathon a try, and I'm not sure what it's going to mean in terms of the physical part of my body, but I'm going to see what it feels like and go from that point.
I got into running in the first place 6 years ago when I noticed that other people who were running all seemed to be quite slim. These weren't women that I was noticing because I didn't know any women runners, but the men that I saw running seemed to be slim people, and this was my goal, to become slim. So that's the reason really I got into running in the first place. I'd been on a diet for about 21 years with very little success, so that's what started me. I ran for maybe 4 or 5 years in good weather and when it suited my schedule, and I really didn't enjoy it that much, and I never did any more than a mile or half a mile. But just recently, well, I guess in the last 3 years, I've been doing maybe 5 miles, 4 or 5 miles, 3 times a week, and considering that was a really good run. This past January or February, a friend suggested that I go to the Y, enter the Y's fun run around Quidi Vidi Lake. So I did, and I enjoyed it. I came last. The weather was terrible, windy and snowy, but I really enjoyed the people. I don't know, the fellowship or something. They were a nice bunch of people. And from then, I just kept on going into the different races that were scheduled. The thing that decided for me that I would go into the marathon was, I guess, in May, when I was given this book from my husband on running. And in the book was a training schedule for running a marathon. It had a 15-week program, and when I added up the number of weeks between then and September the 9th, it turned out to be exactly 15, so I thought just for a lark I would follow the program and see how I made out. And I followed it pretty well during the next few months then. I did a lot of running over the summer, and I guess maybe I've been averaging 30 to 40 miles a week, which really isn't a great deal for running a marathon. I'm not quite, I don't have the training that I really should have to complete it comfortably, but I'd like to attempt the marathon and hope that I complete it. Maybe with a little pain, but I'm going to do it.
Anybody attempting to run a marathon, I would think would have to start several months in advance and to prepare for it. Ideally, a person should run somewhere between 70 and 80 or 85 miles per week for approximately 8 to 10 weeks. Now, what one would have to do also would be to do a fairly long run at least once during the week. For example, on a weekend, a runner might want to go out and run with somebody else and maybe cover 15 to 20 miles. I believe that that's very important. During the rest of the week, several runs of 10 miles or so in length should be attempted, as well as some fast running on the road or on the track if it's available. And I think you have to be doing this so that you can build up your endurance, so that you can have the strength to compete successfully in a marathon.
Newfoundland has a fairly strong history of marathon running and distance racing, in that they have had athletes competing in the Boston Marathon back in the 20s. Ron O'Toole, I believe, represented Canada in the Olympic Games back in the 20s. He's still around, and as a matter of fact is a life member of the association. And in 1952, George Hillier won the national championship, and I think after the AAU pulled out of organizing track and field in the late 60s, that track and field being sort of thrust on its own, that we didn't see too much distance running or any kind of track and field for a few years. Then it came back again in the early 70s, dropped a little bit in the mid-70s, and now in the late 70s it's thriving.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's certainly my impression from day to day that running in general is on the increase. You see more and more people on the highways and in the fields early in the morning, late at night. It seems marathoning is also certainly becoming more popular. Why do you think this is so?
Well, I think there are a number of reasons. It's in North America, it seems to be spreading dramatically. I can't give any reasons in the United States other than I think the fact that public attention is on it, that road race promoters have found a way of promoting their product through organizing marathons. This is coming into being a little bit in Canada, but I think perhaps one of the main reasons is Participation Canada has had a program geared towards fitness for quite a number of years, and that is one way of it catching on. Another reason would probably be the proliferation of international events which bring public attention to fitness, such as, of course, the Commonwealth Games that were held in '78, the international dual meets that are being held in Montreal every year, Canada versus West Germany, etc. Again, a concentration on fitness. The 1976 Olympic Games, of course, not only in 1976, but all the preparations leading up to 76 and 74, 75, should we have the Olympics. And of course the marathon is probably the big event in the Olympic Games. In addition to that, there has been by Sport Canada the funds available for sports to hire full-time people whose job it is to promote their particular event. And I would think that perhaps track and field, and which includes marathon running, has perhaps done a very good job in that, as have the various provinces in Ontario, British Columbia, the Prairies, Quebec, and now in Newfoundland have full-time people whose job it is to promote. And in Newfoundland we're getting a lot of cooperation from the various members of the executive, the various companies who like to offer awards, and from a very, very good road race committee headed by Joe Ryan.
Runners say that the marathon really begins at the 20-mile mark. And while a lot of people can run 15 or 20 miles, it's that last 6 that is the toughest. I've seen people walking just about the last 4 or 5 miles and almost unable to go on, but still somehow they drag themselves to the finish line. I've seen other people just having to give up completely, even as far as the 25-mile mark. So it is a unique event, and it's a tough one. I think you have to have the necessary long runs completed. You have to be very careful that you run slowly at the beginning. You just have to do the best you can to try to finish.
There's a lot of talk about the pain of the marathon. I really don't know what that means. I do not expect running 26 miles to be a comfortable experience. It's not supposed to be comfortable. Walking 26 miles, I would think, is probably even more uncomfortable. But the idea of pain, I'm sure, must be a very, well, I know it's a very personal thing, and I don't really think of that discomfort as pain. Even if there is definite physical pain in the legs, the feet, the arms, or whatever during the race, I'm not conscious of it as pain. I can't really nail down what I mean there. All I do is I expect that. I expect, you know, being on my feet for this length of time, to feel some stress in my feet and my legs and so on. And the way one handles it, I don't know. There's a thing, a lot of people talk about the wall and hitting the wall. They say that you hit the wall around about 20 or 22 miles. I don't know what that means. I am aware of what they mean. I'm aware, it's almost as if there is a wall. I know exactly where it is. It's on my right, just down in front of my right foot. And I run on the edge of it. Now that may sound very stupid, but I'm aware that there is this kind of limit. And the interesting thing is to push the wall farther away. That's what I don't believe that the wall is immovable. I believe that I'm capable of pushing that wall a little farther back and keep pushing it farther back and keeping it that distance away from me. I don't allow, in other words, I don't allow the wall to influence me. There's no way that that wall is a stationary object that I'm going to hit. And now how I handle that and how I do that is very, very difficult to say. The thoughts that go on whilst one is running are very complex. Basically, you concentrate all the time on running, and there's a constant monitoring system going on about how I feel. One thing I do try to do is to detach myself, detach my mind from my body, and try and see myself from a distance and actually see the body. And if I look good to myself, then I feel good. And the way to make myself feel good is to make myself look good. And so if I can do this and can become aware that I'm getting a lot of tension in my shoulder or something like that, and I can relax that and make that shoulder look better, then it feels better, and the wall moves that little bit farther away. I can safely say that although I have finished a marathon in considerable distress, I have never hit the wall, and I will never hit the wall. As for how long one can keep on pushing like this, I think that none of us know. That's the exciting thing about it. None of us know how far we can push our bodies. I'm sure that none of us have ever pushed our bodies as far as they can go. I think that it's very important to be able to run out of one's mind. And by that I mean almost to go insane at the time. People, when they're insane, have moments of insanity, can perform tremendous physical feats of strength. There is no reason why we can't channel that. There's no reason why we cannot approach that and reach that point where we're just about to go. And I think that is ultimately the thing that holds us back, this terrible fear of insanity. I think that all of us have it. A lot of people say it's fear of death. I don't think there's any danger of dying, but I think there is a danger of losing one's mind. And I think that to get as close as one can to that, and to release one's mind and to actually run out of one's mind would be the ultimate. And I think when men and women can learn to do that, then we'll achieve an enormous amount physically. And I don't think physical age will have a very great deal to do with it either. I think that people of all ages might be able to do it. Now, perhaps the younger people may have a better opportunity because they probably are less comfortable with themselves and more likely, therefore, to want to push themselves that far. As you get older, you're perhaps a little more comfortable with yourself and don't want to quite go through that discomfort.
When I'm setting out to run any distance, whether it be around 15 or 18 miles, and 18 is the longest that I've run, I find the first mile to 3 miles fairly difficult in that my breathing's heavy, my body is adjusting to the running, and I find that hard. At about the 3 to 7 or 8 mile, I don't find that too difficult, that distance, but once I hit around the 7 or 8 mile, it seems in my running anyways, I begin to maybe even ask questions. What am I doing this for? Why am I doing it? Am I going to make it? My gosh, I've got another 10 miles to go or whatever it is. And it seems difficult to keep going. However, it isn't very long after that my body seems to adjust to that, and the next 6-7 miles seem to go very smoothly. I guess I've got into a pace, I've got into a rhythm. My stride's being established, and I seem to be able to float along fairly easily. However, for myself, when I was running that 18 mile, and that was in early August, I found that I acquired a stitch, which made it difficult for me, and I had to breathe heavily to relieve it. But I found that certainly my legs and my muscles and everything certainly tightened up at that point around the 15, 16, 17 mile mark, and I found that it was, that was a real struggle to finish that particular race. or run. I was running that 18 miles in an average of around just a little less than 7.5 minutes a mile, which I was really quite pleased with. I hope that in running the marathon, that if I was able to run 7.5 to 8 minutes a mile, I would be very happy with the overall time. It would bring me in under 3.5 hours, and I think that would be pretty good for myself in the first marathon. So that's about all I can say about what I go through in that distance, because I haven't run an awful lot of distance.
Women in running in Newfoundland is just a growing thing right now. I believe it's growing. There were a good 15 women in the different runs that we had during the summer. They tended to be women and, well, young girls, high school girls, and people in their early 20s perhaps that were running. Not quite of my vintage. I'd like to see more women in my category encouraged to run. People who have time, whose children are not on their hands anymore, and I think maybe there should be some runners clinics and different things going on in Newfoundland to encourage people to find out more about running. My friends tend to view me as a little bit it's hard to know how to put it. Well, my daughter said that I was cracked, but I think really they're quite pleased that Mother runs. My children have been involved in the training. They did 10 miles with me last Sunday on their bikes, and my husband called out the times for me each mile, and everybody's been very encouraging. It's a great experience. This is the most exciting thing that's ever happened to me. I can't think of anything better, really. I feel very high about it. It's a great thing to do. I just hope that I can succeed and get to the end. There's only a handful of us in this marathon of female runners, but in fact I think there's a prize for the first 5, and we'll probably all get a prize if we finish, because there's only just a handful running. But perhaps more women after this run and the publicity about it and everything, perhaps they'll be encouraged to try.
I suppose it depends whether you want to be a recreational runner or whether you want to be a serious competitor. And I don't think there are too many serious competitors who didn't start out as recreational runners, running for their health. Already in Newfoundland, I've noticed a number of our recreational runners are no longer recreational runners. They're very good competitive runners, whether it's in distance running or whether it's in the shorter distances. So consequently, they have to look to the coaches and the more experienced marathoners to get advice on what kind of a schedule they should use. They contribute to magazines like Runner's World and Runner Canada and Canadian Runner. All of these magazines are full of information about how much training you should do and the kind of training you should do. And I would think that if a runner sort of gets a good idea on the kind of training that he should do or she should do, then it's not long before they start to develop their own method of training. And as long as the main principles of physiology are followed, it probably doesn't make very much difference as to the type of training to be done, as long as it's done on a steady basis. You can't become a good marathon runner training for 6 months and then expecting to run a hot shot, be a real hot shot in the marathon, and then resting for 4 months and then trying to come back 6 months later. It has to be a steady diet of something like 40 to 50 miles a week for the first 6 months. Try a 10-mile race, then if you're successful in that, up the mileage a little bit, compete in a few track races, compete in cross country, and in 5 years you might be running around 2:30, which is just under 6 minutes a mile for the 26 miles, and you'll still be something like 20 minutes slower than the best in the world. So it takes a lot of years to be highly competitive. The other aspect of the recreational runner, we have quite a number of those in Newfoundland, recreational runners, and they enjoy perhaps the challenge of the marathon to begin with. The challenge of seeing whether they can run a marathon in under 3.5 hours or in under 3 hours. And I think once they've accomplished that, either they're satisfied and they continue their life training on a steady basis rather than on a gut-type basis, or they decide, well, maybe I could be pretty good at this.
But at whatever level, recreational or competitive, you're really talking about it becoming a part of your lifestyle rather than just a one-shot effort.
I would most certainly think so, and I think it's also important that it not dominate your life, that it not rule your life. There are quite a number of athletes, whether they're shot putters or sprinters or marathoners, who feel so challenged that they find that schoolwork and family come second, and that is something that shouldn't happen.
I don't know exactly what to expect when I hit around the 20-mile mark, although people talk about hitting a wall. I think I've trained well enough, although probably not long enough in that I should have started, 8-9 months ago for a marathon at this point. But overall, I think I'll finish it.
All 4 of our entrants completed the marathon, accomplishing what they set out to do.